I did struggle with the French word for hardware store, which is quincaillerie. Quincaillerie. Yeah, I'm still struggling with it. There's been a lot of required use of the Dremel to achieve the ends that I aim to achieve.
I have to remove at least the passenger side axle to remove the engine. Which begs the question, what am I doing on the driver's side?
Hello and welcome back to Skelly's Garage for part 7 of the Project M54 series, in which we aim to bring my beloved BMW X5 back to life with a freshly rebuilt engine. In previous episodes, I took apart, comprehensively checked, and rebuilt a donor engine and took out the transmission. However, because this is an X5 and because I'm lifting the engine out of the top, there are still quite a few steps left to go before the engine actually comes out. Let's get to it.
Now that the transmission is taken care of, we can finally start to work on releasing the engine from this car. Now, as I think I've shown you, all-wheel drive BMWs are unique. The differential on the X5 is right here, which is actually also where the engine is. Now, this might ordinarily present a problem, but if you're a highly paid engineer in Munich, you might come up with a solution in your sleep and then bring it to your bosses as a laugh, and then it gets approved and made on hundreds of thousands of cars. And that solution is to put the axles going through the oil pan. Anyway, what that means is that I have to remove at least the passenger side axle to remove the engine. Which begs the question, what am I doing on the driver's side? First thing is, you actually do have to pull both axles because the driver's side axle is connected to the differential, and unless you disconnect it, the differential, you're not going to be able to move the differential out of the way when you lift the engine. The second thing is that on the passenger side, I'm going to have to replace a lot of parts because the hub, this guy here, is fused to the axle, and the axle nut has completely disintegrated into nothing. There is no way I'm going to be able to take it out either myself or by taking it to someone without significantly damaging the axle. So I bought a new axle, and when I took the wheel off to look at it how it is on this side, I found the same thing. So I bought another axle and 2 wheel carriers. Anyway, that's a lot of talking. Our job now is to remove the brakes, some of these suspension components, and try to take this all out as one piece so that it can go straight into the trash. And then we'll do the same thing on the passenger side. Once we remove the rattle pin, we can start taking off some of this other stuff. I'm going to release the brake pad wear sensor here. I'll put that aside. 2 16mm bolts. Now I'm going to go grab some mechanics wire. I'm just going to route through one of the springs here. Now that we have the caliper off, put our wire through there. I'm just gonna tie it again for security. And the last step is always to say, that's not going anywhere. Take the brake disc off. There are 3 bolts that hold the shield on. Have a look at this. I mean, this is pretty grody. I never replaced the front struts. It looks like they're I don't know how tired they are, but they certainly look very tired. Obviously, rust is not necessarily always indicative of failure. I think I'd like to replace these at some point. Not now. I am out of scope creep. So next we need to take out the ABS sensor and then disconnect these arms. These kids are screaming. Reasonable, I would too. You kind of just wiggle-waggle this out. You don't need to be too mean to it. And we'll just clean it off a bit. So now we need to remove this. This is obviously our tie rod. No, it just got ruined. Is this just gonna be a thing for me? That tie rods for my cars are just inoperable?
Yes, it seems so. You won't be surprised to learn that this tie rod did not come out peacefully and I had to cut it off. But then my friend Blair arrived to give me a hand and keep me in good spirits.
So I've got my friend Blair. He's joined us. He's going to help me try to take some of the suspension bits apart. What do you have to say for yourself, Blair?
Oh, just the masochistic tendencies of German car owners is something special.
What German cars do you own, Blair?
Just a Porsche 924S. But I daily drive Japanese cars for a reason.
Ah, that's good, yeah. Anyway, now with that incredibly, very well detailed introduction, let's continue.
Because of how much fun it was to take this tie rod off and how it immediately started to destroy itself, I've decided that we're going to try to take the arms off at the subframe side. And that means that this is all just going to come out as a big assembly, minus the strut, of course. We'll see how that works out for us. Got it. Did I hit you?
Oh yeah, that's tasty.
All right. Here's a top tip. If you're putting in a bolt on a suspension part that's going laterally,
Yeah.
it goes into the car in this direction. The nut is on the back side.
Okay.
So that if the nut works itself loose, you still have the bolt holding in the suspension piece.
Smart.
Because if it's the other way, if it works itself loose, it's coming out.
Yes. Very smart.
Well, that was easy.
That wasn't too bad.
Okay, so the next step is to remove this tension strut. Hi, Blair.
Hello.
Blair's holding on this bolt here. It's a 21mm bolt. And I'm gonna take a wrench with a 21mm socket, and we're gonna take it off here and see if we can jam this out, because taking it off at the spindle side is gonna be a nightmare. All right, so we've been struggling with this because the duct for the alternator is getting in the way here. Blair's trying to take this blowy bit out. There are some screws inside this bumper which in turn hold this box in, which in turn blocks me from accessing this bolt, which helps to take the tension strut off.
Only about 600 quarter turns to go. Maybe. There we go.
There we go!
There we go.
Tension strut removed. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, no problem at all with that.
No.
No, that was
issues at all.
easy. If I've done my math right, and I believe I have, that means we have two things connecting this axle yet to the car. We have the sway bars, which should be easy.
Should be.
And then we have these two nuts and bolt combinations, which I imagine will be hard. So we need to take off the sway bar link before we take off these guys. Not really an order of operations type of thing, that one's easier and these ones are gonna be hard. So you actually do need to hold this off with an 18mm wrench, but I can't find mine, so I'm gonna just push it back. So, next thing is to remove these two bolts and nuts, and I'm gonna have you hold with a 22 on the side there.
Yep.
And I'm going to see if we can get lucky here. All right, party hard.
We didn't get lucky.
All right, it almost felt like it wanted to for a second there,
Did
but
almost feel like it.
my hands are completely numb and I have lost all of my hearing, so that hasn't worked. My dear friend Andrew introduced me to this invaluable tool, so let's try to make it work. All right.
Look at that. Woo! I'm not touching that.
Don't touch that, that's rather hot. All right, let's see if that's done.
That should do the trick.
Oh yeah, man!
Oh yeah, I bet that's hot too.
Sure is. All right. Well, that's sorted. Here it is. That's the axle out. All right, so here we are in the not at all confined and very tight spaces of between the wall and the passenger side of the car. I have Blair still with me. And as Blair pointed out, something that I like to say when we're doing these kinds of things is, what is it, Blair?
Second verse, same as the first.
That's right. We have to do all of the same taking off on this side as we just did on the driver's side. Let's begin. All right, so let's take off the anti-rattle clip, loosen the brake pads. As before we take some wire, we take the caliper off. Take the brake disc up, and we'll be right back after these messages. You know, this whole ordeal with the Gray Lady has been an absolute nightmare. It's just been one thing after another, and it wasn't supposed to be the star of this channel. But now, all I do is post about it. Started off with a miss, how did it end up like this? It was only a miss, it was only a miss. Now I'm checking the spark and the oxygen wires. While she's running like shit, the situation is dire. Now I fight the exhaust and my stomach is sick. And no comp on the gauge, and the engine is toast. Now the engine is out, and it's so dead.
Metal in the oil pan, no compression, the cylinders are marked, it's done, it's just done!
I just can't look, it's killing me. The gray lady. Misfiring, and now she's the priority. Makes me learn to do the work to make her run well once again. But it's just the price I pay. I'm too deep in a BMW. Don't have hesitation now. There's complication.
Anyway, back to the show.
So let's take off this ABS sensor. There we go. You will have seen it on the other side. Alright, now I'm gonna slightly abuse this ABS sensor. There we go. And that is out. Alright. Loosen the brake shield. There we go. Now you can see what we're doing. There is also another unique challenge that comes to pass with this side. Long-time viewers will be familiar with how often I have a propensity for breaking these. So let's not do that this time around. It's the headlight leveling sensor. There's the sensor. I don't want to break it. They are not that expensive, but they are not cheap, and
If it can be avoided.
I just like to replace things back where I found them, unless it's critically necessary that they're not there.
Next, it was time to take off the tie rod, and just like on the driver's side, I was faced with an uncooperative suspension arm. Once again, had to take matters into my own hands. I even had a moment of philosophical musings.
It's not something I'm proud of, but like it's just a fact of life that there's been a lot of required use of the Dremel to achieve the ends that I aim to achieve. This automotive machinations that I have.
Machinations.
All right, watch out.
That is the word. Yeah, that'll work. Come on, there we go. That'll work.
Teamwork, teamwork, teamwork.
Christ, that's a long one.
Bam.
Nice.
Goes that nut there.
Yeah, get that nut.
I think that's the first dirty joke on Skelly's Garage.
Yeah, it could be.
Are you out?
Oh yeah, we're on.
That should be good. Right. Next. Next.
Yeah!
Well, that was certainly an adventure.
Yeah.
Good?
Yep, come on.
There we go.
Nice. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, now.
All right. Okay, so that's loose. There we are. It's moving. Recall that the axle goes through the car.
With all the suspension and driveline components finally out of the way, it was time to prepare the engine for its release.
Let's drain the coolant. I'm going to disconnect these radiator hoses here. Clip, clip. Remember that there's an O-ring that you have to overcome here. There we go. That's that hose out. Disconnect the sensor. Tuck it away. And let's remove the hose. That's going to be annoying to clean up. Well, that mostly got in the bucket. Let's pull the expansion tank out. Disconnect the sensor. Pull the tab. Oh, forgot a line. All right, there we go. Expansion tank is out. Now let's disconnect this radiator hose. I have to remove these covers here. Comes off as one piece. Because this is a manual transmission, I don't have to do any nonsense with any oil cooler lines. So I can just take off these two screws and the radiator should come out. Now we have all this space for activities. Disconnect the secondary air pump. Okay. That's the secondary air pump disconnected, which is right there. I don't know if you can see it. We're going to need this valve because the other one died. I'm removing the clips on the injector harness because I need to remove this so I can take off the rest of this stuff. All right, so we also need to disconnect the CCV pipe here. I'm going to disconnect the connector from the Vanos, the intake air temperature sensor, and then this comes free. Great. Now I need to take the power cable off. I believe that's a 16. It is not. It is a 17. It's more than that. What are you, mystery bolt? Tell me your secrets. Are you 21? Nope. Are you 18? Nope. Are you 19? I've got the biggest boy. It's quite a powerful gun, this. Power cable's loose. Battery's completely unplugged, so don't worry about that. I'm gonna take these guys out. Disconnect all this wiring here. Then we have the idle air control valve. Disconnected the alternator. All pressure. Thermostat. Remove the intake manifold nuts. Good. I just need to clear up a few things so that I can get it all the way out. Fantastic. Okay. I want to take as much of this all in one piece as I can. So there's a fuel line here that I need to disconnect. I just have to disconnect the CCV. There's the intake manifold out. Well, that was exciting. All right. I know it looks a little chaotic. I promise it's really not that bad. Here is the wiring harness that was along the front of the engine. I already just took it off camera. It was super easy. The next things that we need to do is we need to disconnect that heater hose. We need to disconnect this power steering and then the air compressor, which is down there. Over here is the oil pressure switch. Here is one of the temp sensor plugs. This is the head temp sensor. There are two temp sensors. One of them is in the lower radiator hose, one of them is in the head. Redundancy is good for these kinds of things. Let's take that heater hose off. I'll pull that starter out of there as well. Let's disconnect the starter. Now I'm going to disconnect the knock sensors. Go. We got the crank sensor. And then the oil filter sensor. The instructions now say that you have to take off the power steering reservoir and the pump itself. So let's do that. This thing is badass. I'm going to put the bolts back where they were though. Take off the belt. You can see the engine moving because the motor mounts are absolutely shot. Good thing I have new ones. This belt is trashed. It's got oil and such all over it. That's okay, I have new belts. We are almost there. There are only two things left that I still have to remove and kind of get out of the way before this engine comes out. The first one is the power steering pump, right there. And it's just 2 bolts. The long one is on the right side. Oh, it looks like the belt had been shredding itself. On the topic of the air compressor, this is not actually meant to come out with the engine. You're supposed to take this off and put it to the side. The reason you don't want to take it out is because if you take it out, you have to disconnect these lines, and if you disconnect these lines, then you're going to evacuate Freon to the atmosphere, or refrigerant, not Freon, whatever. And you obviously don't want to do that because that's not very nice to the environment. That's one. And then the second one is right on the other side. Okay, so now the AC is free. And that means we are going to take this engine out.
The power steering pump also had a secret third bolt that took me forever to find. Once again, I was betrayed by BMW's TIS, which said that the air compressor and the power steering pump only had 2 bolts each. They had 3.
The power steering is now finally free.
But with that done, now is finally time to release the engine mounts.
Engine is now officially free. It's time to go into the traditional phase of engine removal, which is start pulling on it and see what you forgot. Fuck. It couldn't have gone all smoothly. The crank pulley hit my condenser, so all of the R134 is now leaking into the atmosphere, and I feel very bad about it, but there's nothing I can do. Also, my lift arm won't get the engine high enough to take it out, so I'm gonna have to drop the X5. These things never work just as you imagine them. If this kills me, it was nice knowing you. Ho ho ho! So I bought another engine stand. It's right over there. But before I put the engine on the engine stand, I have to take a few things off. Let's do that. Let's take off the clutch first. There's our pressure plate, and there's the clutch. You might have seen it when I was taking it off, but this clutch just extended all the way out. If I try to put this back now, it won't work. This is called a self-adjusting clutch. As this clutch material wears, this pressure plate actually slightly shifts to apply even pressure into the flywheel over the duration of the life of this clutch. Which means that once you take it off, you have to reset it. But we're not worrying about that right now. We'll worry about that when it's time to put this all back in. In the meantime, let's set this aside. Now here's something that you might not have known. What is a dual mass flywheel? A dual mass flywheel has 2 parts, an inner part and an outer part. It dampens the application of the clutch so that you have a smoother takeoff. That's really it. Oh my God, it's heavy. Sometimes people put light flywheels on their cars. This one doesn't have a light flywheel. It's pretty heavy. But then again, why would you put a lightened flywheel on an X5? And now the engine's kind of falling back. Now, if you remember, I already mounted an engine to the engine stand once. I did it in French. Il faut utiliser des boulons M10. I did struggle with the French word for hard restore, which is quincaillerie. Quincaillerie. Dans un quincaillerie. 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 Yeah, I'm still struggling with it. Anyway, I got bolts. I got nuts. It's time to make some magic happen. It is rather possible that we will be making no magic happen. These won't fit. An unusual thing has happened. Inch stuff. So I went to the quincaillerie and I couldn't find any appropriate size bolts that were metric. So I had to slum it and get some inch size ones. Hope they work. I hope you're not too big. Oh my God. Oh my God, what? The fucking bolts are too big. Ah! I need M10. Problem is, I don't think I have any M10s. How do I do this? I don't know that there's anything to do. Unless I find M10 bolts. These might work, although I think these are M9 bolts. I found that the bolts that held on the main bearings, the ones that I ruined, and it cost me $160, well, they fit, and they work, so let's put them on. Der Wagenheber ist ein leistungsstarkes Werkzeug, yeah, and all that, so. Please don't fall. Please don't fall. Please don't fall. No! Quit leaking immediately. Put in the safety dingus, and there we go. We're cooking with gas now. Basically, everything on this side and on the other side needs to come off so that we can transfer it to the new engine. Because I'm a sucker for punishment, let's see what we can do with this exhaust. Exhaust heat shield with what is supposed to be an integrated gasket. Not so integrated now. Number 2. Let's drain the oil. That's probably going to end badly, right? It just draining oil like that, but balanced on the engine stand. I don't know if you can see that. That is not... that doesn't look good. And this is the oil that was in the X5. Oh, man. So this engine still has coolant in it. Why? Because I'm kind of a dum-dum. I should have probably drained it while I was still in the car, as I should have probably drained the oil, but I didn't. So I'm going to do that now. We'll set that aside. Now I'm going to tilt the engine slightly. Continuing along this side, let's take off the bracket for the air conditioning. So, this bracket is actually different than the one that came on the donor engine, because this is from the X5 and that one was from an E46. The 2 bolts up front, they're the same length, they're the longer ones. Then there are 3 bolts on the side and they are all exactly the same length. On this side of the engine, there's also a lot of stuff that we need to take off, so let's do that. All right. There's the hose for the auxiliary water pump off. I want to take off the alternator. And there's our oil filter housing off. Longest 2 are in the top. All the others appear to be the same. Oil filter housing and Vanos oil bolt. Here's the second motor mount arm with the dipstick and the CCV components. All right, so that's basically it for this side of the engine. I think I bought these, so I'm not going to pull them off. I'll check, but if I didn't, obviously I'll take these. I do need to take off the differential. Long one is on the top right. Okay, this is going to be really heavy. Oh my God. Now let's get what we came here for. So it's still dirty, but I'm actually thinking that I'm going to clean the inside too, so it's going to be okay. Let's take it off. There are about 500,000 of these bolts, so. Here's our oil pan. There are just like metallic things all in here. So I'd say that this engine really did tear itself to shreds. So I'm gonna have to clean this very, very thoroughly. I might even take it to the machine shop and have them do a hot tank on it, because I don't want all of these things going through the new engine that I just spent a lot of time rebuilding. I'm also guessing if there was that much stuff at the bottom of the oil pan, then the oil pump is going to need some love as well. So we'll check that out. I don't want to buy a new oil pump. They are very expensive. I'm not in a position to spend $900 on an oil pump. So like that's not happening under basically any circumstances. So with that, I think we're going to hit pause. I mean, let's take a sit rep. I got the engine out of the car. I took all of the things that need to come off of this engine and go onto that engine off. I broke a few things, but that's par for the course. Now, you may have noticed that progress on this has been quite slow, and well, there's a reason for that. And that has to do with the fact that 2 weeks ago I got a new job, and there are a lot of other really big important things happening right now, so my time at this garage has not been what I'd like for it to be. And with that being said, just understand that I don't know when the next episodes are going to be coming out, and I'm not holding out on you as such. I really want to get this lady up and running because, to be honest, I am tired of it occupying all of this space, and I'm tired of my garage being a nightmare, which it has to be necessarily because there are so many disassembled engine parts laying all around it. I also just want to get it out of here so that I can start doing some of my other projects. What I mean to say is that I'm not sure when the next installment of Skelly's Garage is going to come out. But when it does, I want to get that engine, the new M54, completely put together and in that car. That's this one, right here. What that means is I'm probably going to have to take this oil pump all out, clean it all up, take the oil pan to the machine shop or something like that just to make sure that I don't destroy that engine on the first time it starts. But anyway, you know the story. But lastly, I'd like to give you a huge word of thanks. I know that the episodes have slowed down, and I wish that I could be doing them faster, but I just don't have time. But you're still here. You're watching them, so that's like really cool of you. And some of you are even on Patreon. If for some reason this is your first Skelly's Garage episode and you like it, go ahead and subscribe and take a look at some of the other videos in the back catalog. Hopefully the next one won't take me too long. And speaking of my Patreon subscribers, a huge word of thanks to these people who have been financially supporting this channel for some time now. There is also a free option if you'd like to do that, and that gives you the option to see some of the behind-the-scenes content that doesn't necessarily always make it into either YouTube or Instagram. And it gives you the option to talk to me directly, which I guess you could just do anyway. What did I forget? Oh yeah, Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, Skelly's Garage. I post pictures there much more frequently than I post videos here, for obvious reasons. Anyway, with all that having been said, thank you very much for watching. My name is Sam, that's the Grey Lady, this is very close to being done, and this is Skelly's Garage. We'll see you next time.